Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at D-Wave Quantum. It is time for another update, and on this chart we track a very bullish pattern. We are looking at an impulse and we start our uptrend with this initial wave 1 to the upside and our wave 2. This means we would be looking for a larger wave 3 to unfold, a follow-up wave 4 and a fifth wave before we would consider a full count within this chart. Now, in this supposed wave 3, I would also consider this to be a double 1-2-1-2 setup. So I would be expecting quite substantial extensions before looking for a more significant top to be in place. Within this structure, also internally, I'm looking for a wave 3 to be unfolding currently, where afterwards I would be looking still for a fourth and a fifth and then another 4-5 pattern to complete only the large wave 3. We would still be looking for continuation higher even after that. But for now, we don't really need to focus too much on the long-term structure, on this follow-up fourth and the fifth and then another 4-5 and so on, because I believe we may still see extensions even within this structure. Even within this pattern, I would expect another high to be able to track a full count, and even after that I could still see internal extensions within this area, because I could also track this to be a series of 1 and 2 setups and this to be a third, fourth and a fifth, and then so on, as we mentioned before. Now, regardless of all this, within this pattern, I'm focusing on this fifth wave where I'm looking at an ending diagonal. Within this ending diagonal, I consider this to be an initial wave 1 up, a wave 2 down, third wave up, fourth wave down, and then a fifth wave that is expected still to form. For this wave 4, we provided the area of support for such a correction ever since we had a possible top within this wave C at the levels between the $28.5 all the way down to the $12.8 level. As long as we hold this area, technically we can continue to still track the fifth wave to form to the upside. Within this structure, since it is an ending diagonal, we expect this wave 4 to form within an ABC pattern. I would currently consider that we have built sufficient waves to the downside in such a way that I really don't see any need for a reset. Now, this is not to say that it is impossible. I would be prepared. I would even watch here an area of resistance that could tell us the signal when the resistance pressure starts to drop, a break above the $38.4 level. But I would also track an uptrend in this fifth wave to have already started. And keep in mind, since we are tracking an ending diagonal, within this fifth wave, I would only need to build an ABC structure. This is the pattern I would expect to form to have a full count. Now, could we see a 5-wave move form within this area? Certainly, but then I would still be looking for even further continuation higher. Within such a structure, if we form a 5-wave move, I would be looking for an area of support and continuation to even higher prices afterwards. Now, this is not the case at the moment. I would still need even the third wave or the supposed wave C, and only after that can we really look for an area of support for continuation within a follow-up wave 5. We would be forming an impulse within this area in such a case. And in the previous video, in the smaller time frame, we have been tracking still this idea of a possible extension internally. Within this structure, we had a 1-2. We had this as a possible wave 3, but we didn't create a clearly substantial enough extension to be the most reliable pattern, and we were looking for a possible extension here. Not even this was too satisfying because we basically were missing some waves for a clear count, but we did hold the area of support and we were looking for possible continuation higher. Now, I'm going to remove the area of resistance. This doesn't seem to be necessary at the moment as we are within a larger correction as it seems. And since we broke this last level, we had a clear signal that this structure was going to fail. But if we go into the even smaller time frame, I also provided you another area of support for continuation higher, because within this fifth wave we were tracking an ABC pattern. We were also tracking a diagonal structure in this area, but this time it was a leading diagonal. In such a case, we did manage to create an initial reaction to the area of support we have here. We pushed into many of these levels and created reversals to the upside along the way, but also here the 78.6% retracement created probably one of the reactions that had the best chance to push and reverse in the next wave to the upside, especially after such a long and tedious downtrend within this area. But once we failed to hold the level of support, it was the first indication this structure was going to fail. We even pushed in a quite direct fashion below the beginning of this wave A, and this would have been a clear signal that this structure has failed and that we would need to consider a more significant top to already be in place. Now, what could I really track within this area? So I could be looking once again for an extension within this wave 4. I could consider this to be a larger wave A, a wave B top, and a wave C to unfold to the downside. Is this necessary? I would consider not, and I would prefer that a bottom is already in place. I will be looking for the relevant levels of support for continuation higher, but we do need to be prepared for such a possibility. Now, we could be looking for an ideal target for this supposed wave C, which we could even add a count for on the chart, but that would be at the 100% extension of the wave A, which is right in line with the 61.8% retracement. So the $12.9 level is the ideal target for a wave C that would form within this area. Now, does it need to get there? Absolutely not. We could form an early bottom, but if we actually push below that, it would be a break of the large area of support in the yellow interpretation, and I would be prepared for a more significant top to already be in place on this chart, and yeah, I would be possibly considering quite a substantial correction in a follow-up wave 4. I would need to consider that this third wave isn't going to extend any higher, and yeah, that the larger correction could occur, and the area of support for this wave 4 would right now go all the way down to around the $6 level. Now, we won't go too much into that because at the moment, we would still be able to continue to track this uptrend. There is no signal that this structure is going to fail. And within this area, for continuation higher, I'm looking at a potential ABC structure to form within this area. Does it need to be an ABC structure? No, but the area of support would be the exact same for a wave 2 correction. It just seems more reasonable to track an ABC pattern within this fifth wave part of an ending diagonal. Now, in the wave B, I would be watching the levels of support here between the 38.2% retracement all the way down to the 78.6% retracement. So we are talking the levels between the $26.3 all the way down to the $21 level. And if you remember, on the energy fields chart, we had a 1-2 setup or an AB setup, I don't remember exactly, possibly even an AB setup, and we were looking for the area of support. We didn't react to the internal levels as much as we did to the larger time frame wave 4 correction. And a very similar thing could occur on this chart, except this 78.6% retracement pretty much perfectly overlaps with the 38.2% retracement, which is the ideal target for the wave 4. On that chart also, we did have a small push below the 38.2% retracement, a recovery, and then a retest before continuing to push within its uptrend. Now, so far, we have already gotten into the area of support. I could even consider that this correction would be closer than we may think to completion, since I'm tracking internally an ABC pattern. Now, this would be a wave B. We would expect to form such a 3-wave move, and within it, within the wave C, I would expect to form a 5-wave structure instead. Now, within this 5-wave structure, I would consider it possible to be close towards the end of the wave 3. I am tracking an ending diagonal in this area, and within this wave 3, I'm looking for an ABC structure to consider this pattern complete. Now, within this wave C, it seems likely that we could even form an impulse. Now, I wouldn't impose this, but it seems the likely pattern to form within this area. And for this, I would be watching the levels of resistance up to the 50% retracement. This is the area of resistance for a wave 4, the $25 level, in the case of an impulse. A break above that would rather make me consider that a more significant bottom would already be in place for this wave 3, but before that, I would be expecting still further continuation within it. Again, an ABC structure is expected to form within this area, and within the wave C, I would be looking for a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5th. So far, we have pretty much pushed into the last level of resistance, and I would like this third wave to already extend lower. Now, could we expect an early bottom? Well, certainly, but I wouldn't necessarily bet on it. We could form a more complex correction, but honestly, this does kind of look like a potential 5-wave move to the downside. And even though we pushed quite high, we nearly broke the last level, or rather the beginning of this downtrend, and turned it into a flat. I could still see this as forming as a zigzag pattern. Now, if we break above the 50% retracement, I would still provide you an additional area of resistance to watch. And we will shift this to the orange interpretation for the extension lower, because I do want you to be aware that it is possible to bottom at any time. Since we did get into the area of support, we did so within a 3-wave pattern, and I suppose we could be tracking a slightly different count that could allow it to work, but I wouldn't in the end focus too much on these small time frames because they always morph and distort and the patterns aren't necessarily reliable, which is why we heavily focus on the areas of resistance and the areas of support. And for me, the last level of resistance is here at the $28 level. Above that, it would be for me a strong signal that this wave B has already formed the bottom. Not a guarantee, but it is a strong signal. And if we form even an initial 5-wave move to the upside, we would be able to look for another 1-2 setup within this area. Or yeah, but at least the first 1-2 setup if this is a large wave A in the end. And for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover. And I'll do my best to do that in the days, weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.